Hey everyone, we are coming from Boyle Heights, from Breed Street. We're standing here in front of the historic Breed Street Shul in order to commemorate one of the most important dates, I believe, in Boyle Heights history. Indeed, I believe one of the most important dates in Jewish history for the people of Los Angeles. We are here on November 22nd in order to commemorate the 85th anniversary of one of the most important events that we've ever had here in this neighborhood and in the Jewish community. We're here to celebrate the anniversary, the 85th anniversary of the Anti-Nazi March, which took place here on November 22nd, 1938 in this evening. And so we're here standing in front of the Breed Street Shul because this was actually the destination of some 15 to 20,000 people who came out on November 22nd, 1938 in order to stand up for civil rights, indeed immigrant rights, asking for the United States to allow Jewish refugees, Jewish immigrants who were facing war persecution because of anti-Semitism with the rise of Nazism in Europe. We have the rise of the Anti-Nazi Parade in order for the people of our neighborhood, some 15 to 20,000 strong, came out in order to protest, asking the United States to intervene in one of the greatest refugee crises that ever happened in history, the Polish-Jewish refugee crisis that hit Nazi Germany and which became one of the focal points that would lead to the racialization and the othering of Jewish people by the Nazi regime throughout Germany and Austria. And here on November 22nd, 1938, some 15 to 20,000 people came out in order to protest atrocities that were being perpetrated against Jewish people by the Nazis in the wake of Kristallnacht. November 22nd was about a week and a half after the events of the Great Pogrom in Germany, known as Kristallnacht, the Night of Broken Glass. And in response to those atrocious, catastrophic events, people started to organize, not just around the world, but also here within our community in order to raise awareness about anti-Semitism, about the refugee crisis that was going on in Europe. And so we are going to be going on a small little walk tonight in order to be able to reclaim just a little bit of that history tonight. We're going to be revisiting the Anti-Nazi Parade of November 22nd, 1938. So here we are at the historic Brooklyn Avenue, otherwise known as Cesar E. Chavez Avenue, here at Soto. And back in the old days, this would have been the major intersection. Indeed, Brooklyn Avenue, today Cesar E. Chavez Avenue, would have been the main thoroughfare for our neighborhood back in the day. But this was also an important part because this was the coalescing spot for the Anti-Nazi Parade of November 1938. And the reason for a coalescing spot here was because you had groups, not just Jewish groups, but multi-ethnic groups that were coming from all different parts of our neighborhood in order to be part of this social justice action. And so people would have been coming from the folk shulas on the north, up Soto. They would have been coming from the Jewish People's Fraternal Order of the International Workers Order, just to the east of us down Brooklyn Avenue. They would have been coming from all of the different shuls, from the Abata Ring and the folk shulas that were up throughout this area. They would all join in order to be part of a major march, as well as our local allies who would come and descend here on Brooklyn Avenue, a gran manifestación, in order to make the case for Jewish refugees here in this neighborhood, demanding that Jewish refugees be allowed into this country in the backdrop of the rising anti-Semitism and the violent attacks that were being perpetrated against Jewish people in Nazi Germany and Austria. And so here, from all the different parts of the community, you would have had people descending onto Brooklyn Avenue in order to be part of this protest, of this manifestation. And we're actually standing across the street from what used to be the original location of Cantor's Deli. And let me show you a picture right here. You know, Cantor's Deli was originally created here in the neighborhood of Boyle Heights by the Cantor's brothers in 1931. However, there is a second location that was created in the Fairfax district in the late 1940s. And as you probably know, since the early to mid 1980s, there's been this wonderful mural on the wall that tells the entire history of the Jewish people from the beginning all the way up until the early to mid 1980s. And there are these huge panels right in the middle that tell about the great history of Jewish Los Angeles. But interestingly, if you notice on those panels that are sitting right in the parking lot of the Fairfax branch of Cantor's Deli, you'll notice that 3 of the center pieces of that mural, of the Jewish community mural, they actually mostly feature the history of Boyle Heights. And if you look dead at the center of that mural, you'll notice that there's an article from the Los Angeles Examiner that says that Jewish people are marching here in the neighborhood and that we are protesting Nazi atrocities. And so that's what brought people here on this Tuesday night of November 22nd, 1938, just 2 days before Thanksgiving, in order to demand for Jewish people that there be some type of humanitarian response in order to solve one of the largest refugee crises that we had ever seen. But one of the convenient points of being able to create a march that was going to center around this area is that all around us you had all of the different clearinghouses of Jewish leftist organizations, from cultural folkschulas all the way on to union labor organizing locations, onto our local Yiddish schools and our religious schools that were manifest right here in the area. This was a focal point in our neighborhood in order to draw people from every direction in order to be part of this social movement. So we're here off of historic Brooklyn Avenue, Cesar Chavez Avenue, right in between Breed Street and Chicago. And we're standing in front of the location of what used to be the National Theater. The National Theater used to be on the north side of the street, and taking up what's part of what used to be the Denim Exchange and what today is part of our Walgreens. There used to be a 2-story theater there called the National Theater. And one of the most important pictures that I have in one of my collections is of people meeting here on November 22nd, 1938, in front of the National Theater right here. And what it says on the marquee of the National Theater at the time, as 15 to 20,000 people are standing in solidarity in front. And as you can see in these pictures, there are Asians here, there are Japanese, Chinese, African American, Mexican Americans, all standing with Jewish people. And what are they here in order to protest? It says on the kiosk of the National Theater, closed tonight, protest Nazi horrors, open Wednesday. And so this event that we had happening here on November 22nd, 1938, it was about a week and a half after the events of Kristallnacht, after the Night of Broken Glass in Nazi Germany and Austria, in order for people to protest the way that Jewish people were in mass being attacked and the start of Jewish people to be brought into the concentration camps as we know it. 15,000 people came here on this night, being led by organizations such as the United Anti-Nazi League, the Jewish People's Fraternal Order of the International Workers Order, as well as the Jewish Community Relations Committee, which would later become known as the Jewish Federation. They would all come and organize, mostly leftist groups organizing in order to raise awareness of the ill treatment of Jews in Nazi Germany, and also to demand that refugees be allowed into this country. And what is important for me to point out about this is, like most of the movements that have happened here in Boyle Heights, East Los Angeles, it has never been just a one demographic type of movement. Indeed, all of the people, all of the different people of the community came together in order to stand in unison, in order to protest against the anti-Semitism of the Nazi regime in Europe. And, one of the things that really inspires me about this is that, these people, quite honestly, were taking their lives into their own hands as they were doing this. The reality of what people were going through, here in this country, at this time, was absolutely traumatizing, as every single person had family that was trapped in Europe, either in Russia or in Germany, that were being exposed to anti-Semitism. And with the rise of this type of violence, of course, there was great panic that spread throughout the community of Los Angeles, and people decided to organize in order to raise awareness of the ill treatment of Jewish people in this community. And so what they did is that they organized right here at the National Theater, where there were films as well as plays that were being offered up in order to give the crowd just a little bit of taste of the brutality that was being shown towards people in the backdrop of Nazi persecution of Jews in the wake of Kristallnacht. Now, one of the things that is important for me to kind of point out, as we are looking at this event, is to point out that Jewish people at this point were never alone. Indeed, the entire community of Boyle Heights came out to be part of this resistance movement.